Teams primary communication. Let's face it, Teams is a communication and collaboration application. So today, we're going to dig into the two primary communication methods of Teams. Hi, I'm Nate Austin with MyTech Partners. Welcome to an episode of MyTech Briefs. Today we are covering Teams primary communication. We are going to learn the capabilities of chat, how to start a new conversation in Teams, and explore why you may choose chat versus Teams as you communicate. Now, before we dig into the content, here is an honorable mention of our mug sponsor. Find the Teams section of Teams to collaborate with your team. Thank you, Microsoft, for using the same word to describe multiple aspects of Teams, which we'll show you later in this session. Now let's get started with exploring Teams primary communication. The two primary communication methods of Teams. We're really going to talk about chat and then the Teams section of Teams. So we're going to start with the chat section, and we're going to go through really on this navigation side over here. This is what we've covered all these other navigation areas in other sessions, but today we're going to just focus on chat and the Teams section. Okay, let's start with chat. We're really going to hit the basics. I want to make sure that you learn some of the nuances. You probably already know this stuff, but I'm hoping that if you're new or if maybe you've just started using Teams or you haven't delved in as deep, that some of these things, maybe there's some nuggets or some tips that might be really beneficial. Okay, so let's start with just a new chat. This little, I like to show that because the create of a new chat icon or the creation of a new chat icon isn't really that intuitive, candidly. So I like to hit that and show that here. So I hit new. I'm going to choose Peter Parker. I haven't had a chat with Peter Parker yet. So I'm going to choose Peter. I'm going to say, hey, Peter. I'm going to start this conversation with Peter. Oh, I do have a hey, Pete. Hey, Peter. Notice it already saw that I had a chat, even though I hit create a new one. But one of the things I like to show about the chat is that you can also add people to this chat. So let's say I started this with Peter, then I'm like, oh, I want to add someone else. I want to add Nina. Actually, I'll add Jeff. So I'm going to choose Jeff. Okay, great. I'm going to add Jeff to this chat. Now we have Jeff and Peter. Looks like I already have a group chat with them. So I'm going to start another chat with Jeff and Peter. So this is one of the ways that when you can create a group chat, you can do individual chats or group chats. One of the things I like to illustrate that if you just have an individual chat, like I have with Peter here, it's just Peter because it's just the person. But when you have a group chat, so I have Jeff and Peter, this little pencil icon appears that doesn't appear when you're just chatting with one person. The pencil icon gives you the opportunity to rename the group chat. So let's say that Jeff, Peter, and myself were part of a lunch committee. Or lunch planning. So that's the name of the chat. So, and this is an ad hoc group. It's not going to be long-standing, but it's just something where we communicate around lunch planning. So, or maybe we just like food, which I do. So, the one thing I also like to show about these group chats is that, let's say this is something that I'm going to be working on for a bit here. I like to be able to hover over this group chat. When you hover over it, I can also hit this little breadcrumb and I can pin this chat. So now this chat is pinned up at the top, and you can pin up to 15 different chats. I found that out because I tried to pin 16 and it doesn't work. At least at the time of this recording, that's the case. But let's say I'm done with the lunch planning committee with this group. I can then come in here, hover over it, hit the breadcrumbs again, and hit unpin. So that's something you can choose to do or not. The other thing I like to illustrate around a chat, because sometimes you're navigating to different areas of Teams, but you can actually, when you hover over a particular chat, notice this little icon also appears. The icon here basically allows you to pop this chat out. So instead of having to navigate back and forth, I want to be able to pop this chat out, so it actually opens up this chat in a new window that allows me to be able to have the other windows of Teams open at the same time and maybe navigating other areas. So I like to illustrate that as well, and I'm going to close that, but as far as something you can do with the chat that is convenient. Of course, there's some quick things you can do to acknowledge a chat, hitting here, acknowledge. But the one thing I also like to illustrate if I'm is when you're in a chat or a group chat is, let's say I want to reply to this conversation or this comment versus this comment. In chat, it's kind of a stream of consciousness. Reply to one comment over another. It doesn't it's not as intuitive as that. You can't just do that because how do you know which chat I was replying to? So you have to come over here, hover over it. Then when the breadcrumbs appear, then you can hit reply, and it then pops this comment down here that you can reply to this comment. So that's something that I like there as well. The other thing that is a little bit less known attribute of a chat is when you're about to type a new message, as I noted, hit enter. When I hit enter, it makes the comment. But if you hit the format button, hit enter, it actually goes to the next line down when you hit enter. So that allows you to add bullets, that allows you to add numbers, it allows you to add other formatting, some other basic formatting in kind of a word editor, but that's something that I like to illustrate. The last thing that I like to illustrate relative to especially a group chat is you can @tag someone. Let's say I really want to get Peter's attention versus Jeff's attention. I can just hit the @ symbol, and then the names will come up of the people in the chat, and I can select Peter. So that's one of the things I do like about the group chat. Is being able to select that and @tag people. So those are really it. The last thing about chat before we move on to the team section is that when you hover over a chat, this happens sometimes when maybe there's a group event or a conversation where you're invited, but you can't participate for whatever reason, and there's a lot of conversation going on in that respective chat. So let's say project A is that chat, for example, and I want to mute that because I'm getting a lot of pings and notifications. You can hover over that chat, hit the breadcrumbs, and you can choose mute. Now, people also ask about hide. Hide does exactly what it says. It hides it. It's not in your view. You can't see it. You won't see it. The only way you can see it is if you happen to search for that particular chat again, and then you can find it. But otherwise, it stays hidden from your view. So what I do recommend if you're just trying to mute the notifications is just choose the hover over the chat, select the breadcrumbs, and hit mute. And you can also unmute the chat as well when you want to get those notifications again. So it's just a simple, easy way. And you can also leave the chat, by the way, if that's something you feel that you want to be able to do. However, most of the time, again, mute it might work as well. So, all right, now that we've hit on a lot of the new chat, replying to a chat, a group chat, acknowledging a chat, all those kind of things, those are some of the key capabilities of chat as you go through it. Now we're going to go to the Teams section of Teams. Again, I'd like to thank Microsoft. We're in the Teams app. We're in the Teams section within Teams, and I'm going to talk about, we're going to be collaborating with the operations team here. The first thing that I like to illustrate that's different about communicating in a team versus a chat is a chat, if it's one-on-one, you know exactly with whom you're communicating. If it's a group chat, you've added the group people, or you can see who the group members are. In a team, if you want to know who's a member of this team, you have to hit the breadcrumbs here, like next to the team. I'm going to hit the breadcrumbs, and I'm going to hit Manage Team. And anyone can do this, and this will tell you that, so if I'm communicating, if I send a message inside of this operations team, which I'll show you I'm going to do, any of these people here are going to have access to it. Any of these people will be able to see it, whether they're an owner or a member or a guest, they will be able to have access to that information. So if you're ever wondering and you're communicating inside of a team, well, who has access to see this? You can hover over the breadcrumbs, hit Manage Team, and that'll tell you who has access. So I'm going to come down here now. When you're in the Teams section of Teams and you're creating a new post or what is a new conversation, you also have the format button. So I'm going to hit that right away. But in the Teams section, a couple differences. One, you get a subject line. You don't get a subject line when you're using the chat function and hitting the format button. You also get a few other drop downs up here. A couple in particular that I find interesting is you can make it an announcement. What I like about an announcement, let's say HR announcement, right? And you could say, please pay attention. So this is something you could do with an HR announcement. So there's a header, a subject line, and then you could then type your communication. Type the message here, or even @tag @tag someone. So I'll just @tag JF for the sake of this conversation. @tag someone. All right, so there we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit, if I hit enter, again, similar to in the chat, it's just going to go to the next line. That's one of the things the format button does too. So I actually have to go over and hit send. So that sends the actual message. Notice it gives a little announcement, little icon. It gives you the header here, so it makes it a little easier. So those are some of the things that are a lot of similarities between chat and Teams, but these are a couple of differences. I mean, you can hover over a chat and acknowledge it, just or a post or a conversation conversation just like you can in the chat section. It works similarly. The one thing I do like to highlight differently between conversations and chats is that if you recall in chat, I had to hover, hit the breadcrumbs, and hit reply if I wanted to do that. Well, in the team section, all I need to do is come down to the bottom reply section. So I can reply here, or not her, but reply here versus reply there. So I can choose the area where I'm going to reply. Now, don't worry. Sometimes you'll have someone that's actually trying to reply to this HR announcement. They'll come down here and say, where can I find the HR stuff? You're going to get people that'll do this. And that's okay. You can make fun of them maybe just once, but no, just it is a common educational thing just to teach people to be able to. You can choose where you want to reply, one versus the other. Again, the format button does something similar. You can hover over it and you can acknowledge or the whole post. You can also just acknowledge one of the replies to the post. So that's some of the differences that you're going to get in the team section of Teams. The last thing is I did show you the @tagging. I do like the @tagging function when you're in the team environment, especially if you're trying to get and elicit feedback from a particular person on the team. It's okay if everyone sees it. You're okay with everyone contributing and having access. But if you really want to get somebody's attention, the @tagging feature is really powerful. So I would strongly recommend using that. Okay, so now, well, why would you choose one versus the other? So as you can see, the Teams section of Teams here, we believe it should mirror your organizational design. When you create a team, it creates a SharePoint site, it creates a security group, it creates this structure. And so it should be part of how your organization is designed from a security perspective and from how the groups of people in your organization are structured to operate. So that's the Teams section of Teams. So by the nature of using the Teams section and putting files and communication there, it's automatically restricting the communication to who should have access to that information. In the chat section, it's very ad hoc. It's very short term. You can spin up or add people or remove people very dynamically. So that's something that if that's the case, if it's just a short-term event or short-term planning, short-term or ad hoc communication, chat is a very capable aspect of that. If it's a long-standing, permanent part of your organization or mostly permanent part of your organization that's going to persist for a long period of time, then the Teams section of Teams is typically going to be the best place to do that. So truly what I love about these two communication methods of Teams is that they provide a very easy way and multiple ways in which you can engage your entire team in communication across your organization that I truly believe provides fewer clicks for you to accomplish that versus other communication methods. We hope this Mitek brief on Teams primary communication will help you choose the most effective way to communicate within Teams and help you make it easier to drive adoption of Teams. If you enjoyed this Mitek brief, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel for future Mitek brief sessions. And check out mitek.com for everything else we do to make IT easy for our clients. Thanks again for watching, and we hope to see you again soon. Until then, be productive and stay secure.